Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Wednesday Wisdom on the Education Lady podcast. Wednesday Wisdom's sponsored by K-12 Sports Tech, along with our other great sponsors. We're going to be right back with our Wednesday Wisdom guests, but first, we want to give a shout out to all of these sponsors. So stay with us, only going to take a couple minutes. And then when we're done with the interview, go and visit each one of these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to K-12 Sports Tech for sponsoring Wednesday Wisdom. K-12 Sports Tech helps athletic directors and vendors connect through education and hands-on consulting services. Athletic directors are also invited to join the K-12 Sports Tech AD think tank and help influence how companies shape their tech to better serve schools. For more information or to sign up for the think tank, just go to k12sportstech.com. That's it, k12sportstech.com. We also want to say thank you to our good friends at Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our kids love the videos, and of course, our parents love the streaming, but there's a lot more. Join the 8 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com. Their team's going to have you creating world-class content in seconds to celebrate your athletes and promote your programs. Your kids are on social media, and if you're not, you're really missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com to find out more. We want to say thank you to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. You can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their scoreboards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com to get more information. We want to say thank you to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com to find out more. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We want to say thanks to Snap Raise. If you've ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and then been disappointed with the results, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school, tremendous success because it works. Go to snapraise.com. Check out their other great platforms, but if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. That's snapraise.com. We'd like to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the events, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's also a great way to showcase your school's unique history and brag about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. We'd like to say thank you to the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. Now, I didn't get my master's at Ohio University, but my assistant athletic director did, and it was a tremendous experience. It was affordable, just 20 months, completely online. And while he was earning his master's degree, he also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses through Ohio University. To find out more, go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. We'd also like to say thank you to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that you will use every single day. Things like scheduling, rosters, communication. How about student athlete eligibility and clearance? Who doesn't do that every day? Home Campus does all of these things and more, does them better, and it does them faster. To find out how you can become a home campus school, just go to homecampus.com. That's it, homecampus.com. And we want to say thank you to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic directors already get feedback, but usually it's from a very small group that only wants to complain. Athletic surveys will connect you to that group, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% that supports your program. And that's an incredibly valuable tool to have, especially when you're meeting with a frustrated parent, maybe your principal, or maybe even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We've got one of our longtime team members, Melanie Redd, with us today. Longtime listeners will recognize Melanie. She's the director of Melanie Redd Performance Training. She's also an in-demand strength and conditioning coach for high schools, for athletes. Just does a great job, and it's always a pleasure to have her on the podcast. Melanie Redd, welcome back to Wednesday Wisdom.
Thank you, Jake. It's always fun to be here.
Well, for our listeners, we're recording this on August 2nd. Sports, I think, in many parts of the state are just getting started. So it's going to be pretty timely when you listen to it. Melanie, you and I were talking about some possible different topics. And as usual, you had the best idea. So, what are you going to share with our listeners today on Wednesday Wisdom?
Well, today I wanted to talk about just the weight room and specifically, there's a lot of schools that I'm noticing just across the country, both in like my local work and consulting work that I do with schools or teams around the country. And I think it's now that strength and conditioning coaches being in high schools is becoming a little more popular. A lot of school systems are trying to do a better job with the space that they have, which is their weight room space. And there's a ton of companies out there who outfit and design weight rooms for high schools, colleges, and professional teams around the country. And high schools are now starting to see what other schools are doing, and may want something similar. And as I've walked a couple of schools through this process, there's some things I think people, specifically administrators and coaches, need to think about before you jump into a complete weight room redesign. So first and foremost is often hear about schools that want to have like these multi-million dollar projects, right? And obviously, in an ideal world, that's really great. But what you also often hear is that the project has been canceled. And you never really find out why, but more than likely it's because it became clear in the fundraising process that there was no way they were going to raise millions of dollars. In a lot of school systems, there's no way you're going to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. And in a lot of school systems, you'd be lucky to raise tens of thousands of dollars. And so I think it would be good for people to just kind of take a step back and maybe do a better job with the space that they have and fill that space and max it out before you go into thinking about, okay, we're going to take this parking lot over here, where hundreds of people normally park for football games, and we're going to build a whole facility there with indoor turf and make it look like, Cincinnati Bengals training facility. Obviously, in an ideal world, that would be amazing and phenomenal. But there are ways to upgrade the current weight room that you currently have, and for a much lower cost, right? So a lot of weight rooms that I go into have a lot of unused equipment in it, because things are just become outdated. If your weight room was built 10 years ago, more than likely there's some equipment in there that you're not using or is not necessary to have, and it's taking up space. So first and foremost, identify what you don't want in the room anymore. There are plenty of people out there who will come and haul that away and pay you to take that equipment off your hands. There are plenty of companies that refurbish equipment and sell them to like small training studios or whatever. And you literally just have to unlock the door, let them in. They will handle the whole entire thing. I've done this before. on more than one occasion. And that takes the huge hassle of trying to figure out how to get really heavy equipment out of there, right? Um, you're not going to get what you think it's worth, period. It's just not worth that much, unfortunately. So if you have a ton of equipment, you might get a couple grand out of that. And then my recommendation is one, not to refill that space right away, unless you're filling it with something that you desperately need, right? So if you desperately need racks and bars, maybe you've only got two, then yes, two more racks and bars can make a huge difference. Those are going to cost a lot more than $2,000, obviously. So you're still going to have to like put money, into that space. But that would be, a better way to go about it than waiting for years to raise money for a whole new weight room, right? Assess your dumbbell situation. Do you have enough dumbbells that range in weights from light to heavy for all teams and all readiness levels for strength and conditioning? So, take into account some kids, new kids are going to need lighter weights, experienced kids are going to need heavier weights. And so, looking at your dumbbell situation. Um, and then, if you have a sizable weight room and there's budget, like some schools have capital budget that is set aside for these sorts of things. I work in a large weight room, one of my contracts that has had 12 racks, a lot of space. And we used to have a lot of like single use. I call it single use, where like only one person can really be on that equipment at a time. Um, we had all of that hauled away and used to have like double racks like right down the center of the room, which create a lot of blind spots for me as the strength coach. So the redesign of that looked like phase one looked like um, 12 new racks around the perimeter of the room, dumbbell racks in the middle. So strength coach or anybody that's in there can see that whole entire space. And then we actually just added two more racks to that and brand new dumbbells and dumbbell racks that are a little more sleek. Take so we got new dumbbells, but like it takes up less space because the new stuff is just a lot more sleek and space friendly. And then there's like tons of wide open space in there as well. So whether you're looking at adding two racks or 12 racks, to a space, you do also want to save some open space in there. That's actually the most important aspect of a weight room. Now, I work with some schools that have very, very, very small weight rooms. There literally is no open space. There might be two racks in there and a dumbbell rack. And that's okay. You can't really update a room or upgrade a room of that size. But what you can do in those situations is buying some like low cost items that you can add to that space or that you could use in a hallway, right? So in the hallway just outside those spaces, that would be a great area to do some medicine ball training, medicine ball throws, right? And if you've got like brick walls or concrete walls, and you can throw them against the wall and it won't damage the wall space. Heavy bands for any sort of band work, resisted running, jumping, and shuffling. Those are generally a low cost item that you can generally go to a booster club and say, hey, we need these things for our student athletes. We'd like to get these low cost items in the weight room. And generally that's a pretty quick turnaround. Sometimes it might take a couple weeks, to get the funds from the booster club. But I have found that that's a better way to do things than to add to your weight room than to hope and wait for some big weight room redesign that's not going to happen. Or maybe it is going to happen, but it could be like a 5 year, it could be a 5 year project. As you know, in school systems, there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of things that have to happen, and a lot of people have to approve things before they can actually like come to fruition. So starting small, doing better with the space that you currently have, maybe some low cost items, getting rid of anything in there and selling off anything that is taking up space so that you have open space, is really just a better place to start. And then when you max that out down the road, then you can go to an administration, or a school board or a booster club, or whatever the case may be, with that, hey, we've maxed out this space. We've already done the best that we can, with this space, and we've got all these teams that we're trying to move through here, and we just can't do what we need to do. And then maybe kind of take that data to the powers that be on coming up with a plan, like a long-term plan to do something bigger and better. But I think being realistic with what you have to work with is going to be first and foremost.
Well, great list of to-dos there on a weight room. And I know there's no one size fits all, but let's say we've got a listener out there, they're an athletic director, they're probably coaching a couple sports at a small school, and they have a weight room, and they've got, these are my words, not yours. They've got the basics. They've got a couple of squat racks, they've got a couple of benches, and they've got some dumbbells, and they have some room to expand. From your perspective, is it, and they've got X amount of dollars to invest in that situation, that smaller school, is it going to
Mhm.
be more beneficial to do a third station, a third squat rack with bars and weights, a third bench press, or would their money be better spent on buying a lot of those other items that you mentioned, the dumbbells, the bands, other modalities, and just stay with the two primary stations? Obviously, they're not going to have 150 kids going through there like a bigger
Mhm.
school would, but
Right.
for for schools in that situation, would you rather see them buy additional big stations or buy some more supplementary tools, if you will?
Yeah, I would spend the money on the supplementary tools because there's going to be multiple uses for those items. In a squat rack, you can only bench press or squat for the most part. Um, Now, some squat racks have different attachments, for different things. If it's a newer squat rack, it probably has that. If it's an older squat rack, it probably does not. But I feel like you can never have too many dumbbells in a room. And often I'll be in a weight room that doesn't have enough dumbbells, or I'm programming for somebody that hardly has any dumbbells. So, like in that situation, as the person that's programming the workout, you have to program a lot of exercises that can be done with just one dumbbell as opposed to two. So, getting more dumbbells is probably going to be high on the list. Those can be really expensive, though, right? And then you have the shipping and freight costs that can be cost prohibitive. So that's also going to be the same issue with a weight rack and bars and plates. So, if that's the issue, then those things that I mentioned, like medicine balls, bands, even like ab wheels, um, just anything low cost that you can use that is going to give you more options on what you can do with those kids is going to be more beneficial for you. And then in terms of like weight racks, I would never recommend that anybody get a bunch of weight racks if there's no one in there that knows how to coach Olympic lifts.
Right. Mhm.
Right? I mean, that would be it. Unless those are coached really, really well, they're really not effective. So you're just kind of wasting your time. And it's okay if a coach runs lifting and they're not comfortable doing that. It's okay. It's not like their um, area of expertise, right? So this is no judgment, but most people, most coaches know what to do with the dumbbell and can effectively coach things that kids can do with dumbbells. So I think that's also another logistic that people don't really think about when they're doing these upgrades. Is there even anyone in there that can expertly coach the things that you're spending money on, the implements that you're spending money on? If there's not, then don't spend the money on that. Like, put it into something else.
Right. And that would fall under one of the things you first mentioned about having, equipment in your weight room. that's just taking up space, because nobody
Right,
uses it or
right.
nobody knows how to teach it. Along those lines, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit more, or hire you as their strength and conditioning pro, what's the best way they can get a hold of Melanie Redd?
The best way to reach me is my email, Melanie at mrperformancetraining.com. But I mean, you can also find me on Twitter at coach underscore Mel underscore Red. That's like the hardest Twitter handle to say. Facebook, Melanie Red Performance Training, and on Instagram, Melanie Red One. So the DMs are always open
Yeah.
on those channels as well.
Yeah. And again, for our listeners, Melanie's very active on social media. She's on LinkedIn. She's on a couple of the Facebook athletic director groups. You really need to connect, add her to your network, and shoot her an email. Maybe she can help you out with a challenge.
Mhm.
Melanie, thanks again for sharing with our listeners at this very busy time for you. All the best with all of your fall sports
Thank
student
you.
athletes, and We'll look forward to having you back for your next segment on Wednesday Wisdom.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, we also appreciate our listeners, and we want to remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day, sharing stories and best practices. So hopefully you'll come back for another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time.